This report has revealed a golden opportunity for the Minnesota Wild as this team continues to climb up the leaderboards. One name in specific has been verbally linked to the Minnesota Wild. We're going to be breaking it down, going over what the thought process would be behind Bill Guerin, John Hynes, and this Minnesota Wild organization as they look to get better and better by the game. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to break down here in today's video. Now, after a little bit of a tough loss against the Buffalo Sabres, after a huge win against the Colorado Avalanche, this raises questions as to if the Wild are prepared to go deep or not. And with this report, it gives the Wild a major opportunity to jump straight into this. So before we do jump into it though, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you one favor, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We're covering everything Wild, and we have a lot of stuff coming as this team is in a very interesting but also very good spot here throughout this season. But if there's anything that I have seen over the last couple of games, it's that a Minnesota Wild move is coming. And with all of this coming out right now, the report has detailed one name in specific that has been a very hot commodity for not just the Wild, but across the NHL so far in this season. And that all starts right here from David Pagnotta, who has a lot to say on this, and quite a bit of it will be coming from him. So keep that in mind. David Pagnotta saying teams that would love to get their hands on a guy like Kiefer Sherwood are Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, New Jersey. They would all like to add a big piece. The Canadians, there's no shortage of suitors, and that comes from Zuccarello and Price on November 27th. So at this point right now, 3 days ago. But this conversation's been going on for quite a bit longer than that, and it really started off with, I believe, the Ottawa Senators and Boston Bruins being named as the first two, but then continuing on with more teams. And at this current juncture, it seems like these are the teams now that are more so involved. The teams that have proven themselves as top contenders. And the Wild are no short of that. They look to add whenever they can. Bill Guerin has notably been aggressive over the past couple of years and looking for a guy to add into a lineup that brings some goal-scoring opportunities, that brings everything that this Wild team is looking for. Kiefer Sherwood brings just about every single bit of that. And continuing on, regarding Kiefer Sherwood, once again from David Pagnotta on that same show, any contender really at the top tier team is going to have a conversation or at least poke around to see what they can do to pry him out of Vancouver. And all this did really stem from about a week ago at this point right now. Vancouver saying that just about everybody except Filip Gustavsson and Quinn Hughes are on the market for them. And most notably at this point right now, their veterans are the ones that they're looking actively to get rid of. And the names were Kiefer Sherwood and Connor Garland. But both of these guys right now have proven options for other teams, but right now it is Kiefer Sherwood who has been putting on a much better display in a lower production role than what Connor Garland has. And I mean, when you're just kind of looking at Kiefer Sherwood as a player, you see a 30% even strength offense right here, the 61 defense, and a WAR of 75%. Great finishing, great goal scoring, great on the primary assist. Penalties and power play are a little bit tough, and you see the drop-off from 23-24 to 24-25 season, but he's been someone that this season really has got that offensive skill back. Never lost it really, but the goal scoring has been one major part of not just his success this season, but over the past couple of seasons. And you can look at right now the box score, not box scores, Hockey DB here, his career stats this season, nearly, passing his career high in goals in 19 in the NHL. Currently 12-4 for 16 points in 26 games. He was at 12 goals in 24 games, was on pace for 41 goals on this season, and is on a very good pace to continue showing that production as someone who's really been on a second to third line guy for that Vancouver Canucks team. So as we currently look at as an option of Kiefer Sherwood for this Minnesota Wild team, he provides the one thing that the Wild are actively looking for in goal scoring, and that's why this is such an interesting target for the Wild. It's not just the fact that they've been out here looking for someone who can provide more on the offense. It's directly what the Wild are looking for as to why this is something that has taken just such a big leap at this point right now into being one thing that desperately is needed and fits the bill for the Minnesota Wild. And with Chris Johnson coming out about this as well is where we really get to understand the price of what it would take to pry Kiefer Sherwood out of Vancouver. Chris Johnson had this to say: there's a world where I think Kiefer Sherwood brings back a first-round pick for the Canucks. I think he's probably the most attractive of their options, and I think it can be moved fairly easily. And this comes from the Chris Johnson Show, also on November 27th. This is something as well that the Wild are really going to need to consider, and that is being able to use their assets to get a piece like this that is actively being marketed across the entire NHL and is garnering interest from just about the entire NHL. So with the Wild's opportunity of trading for him, I think Chris Johnson really saying here is being able to bring back a first would be the deal that pushes it through if there is such a massive bidding war. And of course, going back to what David Pagnotta said, if it is all these teams in Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, New Jersey, the Habs, the Bruins, that's 6 right there. Those teams are going to actively be looking, and if they want their guy, they're going to go and try and get their guy, as the Minnesota Wild would as well. So looking at how that first-round pick may be the thing that pushes it across is certainly interesting to see because of how much it relies on the market being active for that Vancouver Canucks team, because they've said they're willing to trade him. If nobody goes and, ask the Canucks, hey, would this work? And there's no other teams that are interested in a trade, they may do it for what could be a third-round pick. It's something that at this point right now will have to go nearly day by day, as he seems like the next guy that will be moved across the NHL via trade. And at that point right now as well, speaking of a different kind of price, he is fairly cheap, $1.5 million for this season, going to be a UFA next year, 30 years old, but is still putting up the best numbers of his career, which is a very good sign going forward. Seems like right now, Kiefer Sherwood is in his prime, and that is also some good news for the future, as his projections by cap wages right here in AFP Analytics, 3 years, $2.75 million, and that is one big concern for the Canucks as to why they're looking to trade him. If he does not show that production over the next couple of years with this price tag, they may be in a bit of a predicament compared to where they are now, which is still in a predicament. So any other team would be able to justify moving and doing this deal. The Canucks, not so much due to what they're dealing with on their side of things at this very moment. But right now, with that price tag, with the Wild's need for such a goal scorer, his price tag, the ability to have him here for a couple of years has to at least be some, mark in the Wild organization right now, whether it's at the level of Bill Guerin, whether it's at their NHL scouts. I can almost guarantee you that Bill Guerin has at least had some contact, and with the way that we're seeing him on his scoring chart right now, you see the deep red being the obvious great opportunities, a lot in the slot, a lot in front of the net, really helps out the Wild here with the absence of at least a little while for Marcus Foligno, and being able to shoot anywhere, being able to generate goals, is of course what the Wild will be looking for. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about Kiefer Sherwood as an option here. Of course, David Pagnotta has been very adamant that there are many teams across the NHL looking for the services of Kiefer Sherwood. But right now, if I'm the Minnesota Wild, if I'm Bill Guerin, I'm going out here and actively pursuing what I think would be probably the best option at this point in time for the Minnesota Wild via trade in terms of what they can also need to give up for value. So let me know what you think in the comments below here. Would you do this deal? Would you even try and make some moves? Of course, a pick seems to be the thing that is going to move the needle for the Canucks. But the Wild have the prospects to be able to make something like this happen as well. And you never know. This could be a much bigger trade than what some people may think. But this is all I have here in this video. Like I said, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. If you're liking the idea of it, if you don't, if there's any other names, throw them in the comments below. But like I said, that's all I got here on this one. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.